My first tip is going to be make sure you get a good warm up and a good warm down. It can take 10 minutes or more depending on the individual. What I found that I like to do is a combination of ballistic stretches, which are moving stretches, and static stretches, which are held stretches. Static stretches are actually, you may jog 2 laps, sit down, stretch, put your legs out in front of you, bend over, and actually hold it for a count of 10 or 15 seconds. Ballistic stretches are, as I'm jogging my 2 laps, I may jog the curve, stop on the straightaway, start doing 10 lunges to the side, doing some of the things that I'm going to have to do when I start running. It's a combination of the two. Normally people say, okay, when they just do static stretching, they feel tight. But when your body's in movement, and that's what you're going to do when you're running, when you're stretching that way, you're already getting your body loose. For me, when I'm hurdling, I may do certain drills that are just for hurdling where I'll have to get my lead leg up. So I have to make sure my hamstrings are loose, more so than just holding a tight stretch, and my muscles may not always be stretched properly because I may not have warmed up the way I should have warmed up in my lap. I was dogging it out a little bit, I wasn't feeling it, and I really didn't get out there and work up a sweat in my 2 laps. So if I do ballistic stretching as I'm running or as I'm warming up, I'm warming up those little itty bitty muscles. And I'm telling you, you need to warm up, you need to stretch, you need to get a good cool down. Nothing performs at its best when it's cold. Look at it like this. You warm up your car before you drive it, you preheat your oven before you cook, you warm up your food before you eat it. So why wouldn't you warm your body up before you ask it to go out there and perform? Only thing that coldness is good for is to preserve. We put things in the refrigerator to preserve it. We ice our bodies down to preserve it for the next day. So take it from me. Get out there, warm up, stretch, get a good cool down, and then ice your body so you can have a long career. When you put it all together, the hurdles is a series of technique, its form, its mechanics, and speed. And when you put it all together and it's right, you may not even remember parts of your race. Running is a series of 1 foot, no foot, 1 foot, and that's for sprinting and hurdling. For me, I'm a sprinter. If you were to ask me what I am, you can pull up 50,000 hurdle pictures, but I'm a sprinter. And I just happen at sometimes in my races, I happen to have to go over obstacles. I would say the difference between myself and other hurdlers is other hurdlers consider themselves hurdlers. And hurdlers have this mentality of rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I know the steps in the hurdles. I come out the blocks, it's 8 steps from the blocks to the first hurdle, there's 3 steps in between each hurdle, and there's 5 steps off the last hurdle to the finish line. So I know the rhythm, but I don't want to run in rhythm because then we're all running the same time. I want to differentiate myself from everybody else. And how do I do that? By thinking I'm a sprinter. Well, not thinking, I know I'm a sprinter, and I sprint. If your lead toe is not up, you're leading with the toe, or your foot, instead of leading with the knee, your toe is down, chances are you're going to hit. At a certain point, if your trail toe is down and you're trying to bring that trail leg, which is the second leg that comes through, something's going to bump and mess you up. When I look at the hurdles, I see 10 separate races. I don't just see the hurdle race as a whole. To me, repetition is rehearsal, and rehearsal is practice for the main event. So why do I go to practice? Why do I do the things that I do? Why do I do drills? I do pitch into the fence. That's a lead leg drill. And I'm doing fence pitches. That's where I'm actually standing there thinking about bringing my lead knee up. Sprinting, because last time I checked, it's about speed and your technique. I make sure my technique is sound, and if I do that, then I don't have to worry about what's going to happen when I get to my 8th step off the block or my 3rd step off the hurdle. I know I'm just going to take it, and I'm going to take it with everything that I have. I have to be aggressive, and that's what you have to do. Work your arms. Your arms tell your legs what to do. It's something I was told a long time ago that I'm going to leave you with. Work the heck out of your arms and tell your feet to keep up. I am fast, but I'm not just fast. You can't just be fast and be a hurdler. You also have to work on your technique and your form. The pictures that you see on the internet, for the most part, they show the same picture. But if you look at it, my knee is up, my toe is cocked, you can count my spikes. My trail knee, trail toe is up, so I am working on my form. I'm not just a sprinter. I'm a sprinter that goes over hurdles by working on my technique and form. If I wasn't, I'd hit hurdles. If my toe was down, I would hit so many hurdles, I would never win any races. My longevity in the sport and being on top as long as I have in the sport, I can count the number of races that I lost. So I beg to differ on that. Don't be a self-proclaimed expert of what it is you think I am. Just because I can run 10.8 and most hurdlers cannot, don't assume that's all I am as a sprinter. Be me and take 10.8 into a hurdle race. I'm doing exactly what everybody else is doing. I just have to do mine quicker.
You know, there may be a lot of young athletes out there who, like me, have been told you don't want to sprint and hurdle because you don't want to take that much speed into the hurdles because it will mess you up, or vice versa. And what I'm telling you is that if you have the desire to sprint and hurdle, then you need to do it. But what you're telling yourself by trying it is that I'm willing to work extra hard to work on my technique and my hurdle form so that it's sound and I don't have to compromise my speed because of my form. What I'm doing is working on my form so that my form keeps up with my speed and not the other way around. Last time I checked, when you line up in a race, the gun goes off and the clock stops off the first person who gets across the finish line. That's about speed. It's not about form and it's not about technique. So if my technique is sound and I can work my speed, I'm going to get there. And then you become a sprinter who happens to hurdle, and you'll be where you want to be every single time.
I'm reckless abandon. I want to keep my arms sprinting. When I'm sprinting, my arms are constantly moving, and when I get to a hurdle, I want to take that hurdle as quick as possible, but I want to take it as if I'm sprinting. I don't want to open my trail leg up and really bring it all the way back around. I want to keep it in a sprinting motion so that I can get back to sprinting as soon as possible. I want to get up and off the ground. Like I always tell people, you see hurdlers and they're looking like they're posing for a picture. And I say, if you want to take a picture of me, you better get one of them SLR cameras or whatever you call them. And I think that's the difference. If you're running a rhythm race and then somebody comes by you that's running or that's sprinting, I'm looking at it as if my fastest 100 meters is 1082, I'm looking to run 1082 over barriers. I'm not looking to say, okay, I'm a hurdler now, so I don't want to take that much speed into the hurdles. Why? It's not who looks the best. It's not who poses the best. That's why I say I'm a sprinter, because most people look at the hurdles as if it's a rhythm. So I got to get my rhythm. No.
Like I said in the tip section, I'm reckless abandon. I'm not thinking about how to get to the hurdle or what am I going to do when I get there. I'm just going to take the hurdle. In everything that I'm doing, I'm being aggressive. You got to be aggressive. You can't be afraid to hurdle. You can't be afraid to get to that next step and wonder what's going to happen. You know the rhythm. 8 steps out from the block to the first hurdle, 3 steps in between, 5 steps off the last hurdle to the finish line. You just have to take it.
The key to running, whether you're sprinting or hurdling, is the arm. First thing is the arms, because your arms tell your legs what to do. If you work your arms, your legs are going to keep up. When you walk, it's very basic. When you walk, you swing your arms, and unless you're dodo, it's opposite arm, opposite leg. It takes talent to do same arm, same leg, because that's not the way we walk. So why change it when you're running? So it's the same thing. Your arms lead you when you're walking, so they do the same thing when you're running. So your arms tell your legs what to do. So my little philosophy or whatever it is if your arms tell your legs what to do, then keep it moving. If I keep my arms moving, my legs will keep moving. When you run, you do not want your arms to cross your body. You go to practice so that you can rehearse for the main event, so when you step out, you don't have to think about it. Case in point. When I first started hurdling, I had a problem because I'm pigeon-toed. I had a problem with dropping my toe, and I kept banging the hurdle. What others deem a mistake, I turn into a positive. Case in point, for me, if I hit a hurdle in a race, that's the worst thing for my competitors because I'm not going to get it wrong anymore. I'm going to make sure my lead knee is up, my lead toe is up. Your toes are always supposed to be in an ankles-up position. When your foot is cocked, you're striking the ground with more force, and it's keeping your center of mass where it's supposed to be, which is almost directly underneath you. Anytime you go dance toe, let's say, that means you're reaching out while you're running. And I mean, you're extending and it's long. You may be taking longer strides. I don't want to take longer strides. I want to be sprinting. I can take 52 steps, but I want them to be forceful while keeping my foot cocked. There's several drills that you can do that concentrate on that. There's 3-step jams, there's plop plops, there's pitching to the fence, step overs, and all these things that you're doing, you're trying to make sure you keep the knee up, toe up, over exaggerating the position so that you're doing it over and over and over as repetition, so that when I get in a race, I don't have to think about it. Now it becomes second nature. I can keep sprinting. You have to break down your race. I want to be as fast as I can at a race when it counts. So, we have this saying, you don't want to leave it in practice. You can say, shoot, I was running world record pace in practice, but when you got to a race, you ran 3 seconds slower. So what's the point? You need to break down your event. There may be certain days in practice that all I'm working on is the arms, making sure it doesn't torque or come across my body. So on those days, I may do the fence pitch. When you do drills, all drills are not for speed, contrary to what people believe. Drills are for training your body for what it's supposed to be doing. So I'm supposed to pitch. Arms are supposed to be forward, not across my body. So I may do a series of pitching to the fence. 25 on both legs and another drill where I'm doing plop plops. And all I'm thinking about is getting the knee up. I always tell people, if you want to maximize whatever your sprint capacity is, the best that you can be over the hurdle, the way to do that is to be efficient. The way to be efficient in hurdling is to break down your hurdles. Work on your form, work on your technique, your speed, and put that all together on race day, and there you are. Don't think about the hurdles as, oh, this is some totally new space race. If I were to tell you to just run, you'd just be running. But now that if I put an obstacle in your way, you change everything. You go dodo on me. I want to utilize my arms to get me over the hurdle. For me, I'm a right leg lead, which means that after my 7th step, I'm pushing off my left leg, driving my right knee and toe up through the hurdle. While I'm pushing my arms, my right arm is my trail arm. So if I'm pushing off my left leg, I'm pushing my right arm forward and I'm thrusting the opposite reaction. So if I'm thrusting here, I'm recalling. So it's a thrust and recall. So I pitch, reverse, and all I'm thinking about is knee up, toe up, drive the arms forward, and as soon as I get it forward, I want to think about getting it right back so that I can bring my left leg through. Reaching for the ground keeps you in the air too long. You don't have that control. When your foot is cocked, I bring it up. If I want to get off the hurdle, I slam the lead leg. If I'm reaching, I have to wait for gravity to take me there, and you got to wait. So if my lever is long, it takes me longer to get to the ground. If you get your mechanics right on hurdle 1, you times that by 10. But the opposite is that if you mess up on one and if you mess up on every one after that, you're reaching on 10 hurdles and you're slowing yourself down by at least 1/10 of a second. I don't look at the hurdle I'm getting ready to go over because that takes me up, in my opinion. I'm looking down the track. If I'm going over hurdle 1, I'm definitely trying to look through hurdle 2 and look towards the finish line. As I'm coming out the blocks, the only thing that's in my mind is to be the first one out the blocks, beat them to the first hurdle, and then continue. If I can beat you by a mile, I'm going to beat you by a mile. I don't want to play catch up. I don't want to say, ooh, I got a strong finish. Watch me finish. Let me just get out. That's high school. I got to run. I think of my races, when I see 10 hurdles, I don't see one race. I actually see 10 separate races. And the reason I do that is because if by chance in a race, I'm going over hurdle number 1 and I make a mistake, hurdlers tend to take that mistake all the way through the race. I think of it as when the gun goes off, I've got 10 separate races, and the last race being the race from the last hurdle to the finish line. So each hurdle is a separate race for me. Thinking about each hurdle as a separate race, I've got 10 times to get it right. Things happen. Okay, that race is done. I messed up on hurdle 1. That race is out of here. Now I've got 9 more races and I'm going to keep it moving. When you step in a race, it's mental. You have to be able to say, let it go. That mistake I made, okay, get it right now. Like I said, if I hit a hurdle, I'm going to get it right. I'm going to be extra on top of it. I'm going to make sure my lead knee is up, that I'm pitching right, that I'm being forceful coming off. I'm running away from the hurdle instead of just coming down off the hurdle, which explains how I can have a mediocre start, maybe hit a hurdle and look like I'm totally out of the race, and come back and finish very strong. If I'm even with you off the last hurdle and I don't think there's another race, then I'm just going to take whatever momentum I built up off that last hurdle and take it through to the finish line. That's what you're going to do. I'm not. I'm racing you to the finish line. My goal is to get my lead leg off the hurdle as quick as possible. In those 5 steps, I got you. It's do or die, and I'm going to get there first. There's 2 things you can do when you're faced with an obstacle. You can conquer it or you can be conquered. And I always choose to conquer because it means I'm going to get up and over, get through it, and get to the finish line.